Hey Tim. Hey Patrick. Hey Mike, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Hope you're well too. I've been enjoying my newly broken in, well, in middle of breaking in pipe. This lovely little LCS with a triangular shank. And I've been smoking Orlik Golden Sliced in it. Hey Patrick, hey Steph. Well, tonight I'm working on, well, let you tell me which pipe carver inspired this pipe. Shade Tree Piper, how you doing? Hey Boris. So this is, oh Mike, you're too good, seriously. You're much too good. Give some other people a chance, spot on. Well done, Mike. This is a sterling silver band. It's the first time I'm working with silver. And I wanted to do a chubby, short billiard. I think I'm making it for myself, but I'm not sure. If I get a lot of offers, maybe I'll sell it, I don't know. I've kind of made it with myself in mind in terms of dimensions and shape and all that kind of thing. And it's coming along nicely. Very good, Mike. I shouldn't be surprised, really, should I? It was obvious that you'd get there. What he has been doing quite a bit recently is mixing materials here. So not silver, but he does multi-acrylic bands, but not just one band and then the next one. He cuts them at an angle, and just like 2 or 3 different acrylic materials together to make a band. Very cool. It's something I might play with. Which, it's actually supposed to be a billiard. It's not supposed to look like a poker. It's supposed to be a billiard, which I think it is. It's a stubby one, but still, should be a billiard. Hey James. I assume that, and then turning it at an angle and then putting in the lathe, which gives you those angled lines, which I might play with. We'll see. It's something I like the look of. I'm really exploring the bands, as you can tell. A lot of my recent pipes have got bands on them, and I've really kind of got to learn how to do it on a wood lathe. And you can see here that the line is very, very sharp. No gaps or anything like that. And a very tight fit as well. Really, really turned out great. Very happy with it. Hey Tony, hey Burley Nut. And it looks like it should have some nice flame grain, this one. We'll see how it looks once I've finished sanding. Whether or not I'm going to stain it, we shall see. I do notice that a lot of the Danish high graders, hey Jimmy, no snow here, no. A lot of the high graders don't do much in the way of staining, or if they do, a very light stain. So, but I enjoy contrast staining as well. It's, you know, I like playing around. So my pipe cell's been doing quite well. You've probably seen that I put a video up recently with with a bunch of pipes going up for sale. And hey Josh, and really I've really knocked down the prices on the LCS pipes. Those are the bargains there. I mean the Stanwells and the limited editions and the ear pipes, those they command the price, but I've really slashed the prices on the LCSs. The 3-star one, which generally speaking would start at something like 220, 230 pounds. I sold that for 150 pounds. So the person that got it got an absolute bargain. Stunning grain on that pipe. So here in London and the South, I think Tim, Boris was listening to you. A lot of people were complaining that the South was being treated differently. We've gone into Tier 4. I didn't know that Tier 4 existed till tonight. Maybe it was created specially for this particular scenario. But we're now essentially in a lockdown, bar a couple of differences, but otherwise, in all but name, we're pretty much in lockdown now, as of about 20 minutes time. Tony, I don't know, I was just saying that a few minutes ago. I'm not sure. We'll see once I've got it down to 400 or 600. Then we'll see if I'm going to stay in or not. Yeah, definitely about that new variant. And they're obviously worried about it. They're saying that the new variant seems to be proliferating in London and the South. And it's proliferating very fast. And is now the major cause for all new infections. So they're very worried about it. And I, for one, am quite happy to see that they've jumped on it. I hope they've jumped on it soon enough. Mr. Ximba, hi. Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed that chat. It was very enjoyable. As I said, they create a very, very relaxed atmosphere, and it's just, you feel like you're just sitting, chatting with a couple of chums, which is what it was, really, in reality. And I had a great time. China virus. Hey, Jeff. Well, it seems quite evident that one can catch it more than once. I had somebody come on Thursday night to collect some albums of his daughter's wedding. Obviously, he didn't come in the house. I just left it on the doorstep, but we were chatting at a distance. And he told me that one of his friends got it for a second time recently. Tim, you'd think so. You would think that people would take things seriously. I mean, that's the first thing that I said to my wife when we heard the news. The fact that he's springing it on us almost immediately. I doubt that he knew about it a week or two ago. And, and he's just obviously had compelling evidence or guidance. And is just not taking any chances. And unfortunately, people are not taking, they're not being sensible about it. Excuse me. There are reports on the news today about queues in all the shopping centres, all the shopping malls. What I find sometimes, it just kind of is a bit mind-boggling, is that people are just so much like sheep. I mean, we know that, but still, it just still boggles my mind. He announced today that it's going to come in at midnight tonight. So people ran out to the shops. What do they think? Do they think that the virus only starts infecting people after midnight tonight? The midnight tonight is purely a deadline. It's just a demarcation to give it a time. You can't say, right, it starts right now. You know, you can't do that. So you've got to give it people time to get home or whatever it might be. Instead, people just run out to go and cram the shops. I just, some people, they just seem to have this complete lack of, number one, common sense, but just, self-preservation and preservation of other people and preservation of their loved ones that they will come into contact with. It's just, I find it incredulous that people just don't think beyond what they're told. Just take it another step, and they just completely take it superficially, on superficial face value only, and don't just read into it just what consequences are from a statement that they've just heard. They don't have to just listen to the statement and therefore it's black and white. It just, I don't know, I find it mind-boggling. I know, Steph, I absolutely know that. People have been saying that in a couple of my videos recently. Common sense, I've been advocating common sense, and people say that one of the least common things is common sense. Hey, Andrew. I think this is pipe 258, if I'm not mistaken. And as I said before, this is a pipe inspired by Tau, a Danish carver, and short stubby billiard. This is a sterling silver band, first time I'm working with sterling. And I'm really happy with the way it's turning out so far. Drilling is thankfully spot on. Yeah, it's terrible, Tim. It's just, as I say, it's mind-boggling. Trains being packed solid. There was reports on the news that Oxford Street was rammed tonight. People trying to get their last few gifts together. The Christmas leniency, the 5-day thing, has been scrapped now. And now they're saying that people can on Christmas Day itself. But again, it doesn't mean that the virus is going to stop circulating on Christmas Day. It's just because he doesn't want to be humbug. He doesn't want to say Christmas is cancelled. I don't know if that's a good enough reason anymore. If this new variant is going to be as virulent as they say, I don't know if that's good enough. My parents took a very difficult decision. They consulted with their doctors. My brother's marrying off a daughter in the new year, and they've just told my brother today that they're not coming, and that's very, very hard. Very, very hard. My mother's like a bit of a matriarch of the family, and she travels worldwide to be at family weddings and family gatherings. She's one of the most travelled of the wider family, never mind our own family, but of the wider family. She always sees it as her job to represent, the UK branch of the family, if you like, and, was always the one to run and make sure that somebody from the UK was at a particular function. So it's really hard for her, and compounded by the fact that it's her granddaughter that's getting married. Very hard. And my wife and I were talking about it before. We're not sure ourselves what we're going to do. We're thinking of maybe just going for the religious ceremony at the beginning, which takes place outdoors anyway, and then coming back and not going to the dinner in the evening. And I don't know how they're going to socially distance the dinner. They're obviously going to do something to do that. They're not reckless. So we're just going to have to watch and see what the plans will be. I mean, it could be that the Tier 4 will be finished by then, I don't know. Hey TX, you're not late. I started early tonight. It's still 11:45, so we're 15 minutes early. But I figured that I'm out here already, and I'm at the sanding stage, so no heavy noises with the drill and all that kind of stuff. So I figured I might as well chat while I'm sanding. Hey Stratman, I make pipes. I've been making pipes for the end of this year. Will be 2 years actually. It will be 2 years since I started making them in earnest. And this here is pipe 258, I think, not 257. I think it's 258. I've been called artist before, but usually with a urinary connotation as a prefix. That churchwarden went for a song. I don't always manage to put the sale videos out. You know, I try to put them out at good prices, but this time the prices were absolutely ridiculous. As I say, not the Stanwell, not the limited editions, but the LCS pipes. I've literally, some of them are half what I would have charged almost normally. I'm sitting on too many pipes, and as I haven't got my website up and running properly, and my marketing has been a bit trash, I figured, you know what, I'll just get them out there, sell what I can, and hopefully over the holidays I'll sit down with my son and finish off the website, so that but in the meantime, just to get some sales done. Thank you, Mr. Exember. That's very nice of you to say so. I think that's it's very well spotted of you. It's the proportions is something which is very important. You know, sometimes a pipe can look very, very simple, but I'll give you a good example. If you look at a Yes Chonovitz billiard, or if you look at a Jeff Graysick billiard, I might look at it and say, well, that doesn't look too complicated, does it? And to what meets the eye, it isn't. But getting those proportions, when you look at one of those pipes and it just looks perfect, you don't always realize why it looks perfect. And you've got to study it, and you've got to look at those proportions. And that's something which I'm as you say, I'm sort of studying and trying to improve all the time. You know, when I was lining this up on the block, you know, measuring every part of it in terms of balance, you know, so this part should be as close as possible to this part in terms of length, this being in the band being in the center, so it should have a certain balance to it. The pipe, I wanted it to be not a volcano, but that kind of expression of it going slightly wider there and slightly wider there. You know, almost somewhere between a billiard and an apple. I was looking for that look. If you look at some of the best sort of chubby billiards out there, they've got this kind of fat, wider baseline, and it just gives it a nice, squat, balanced look. So that's what I was going for. I didn't make it too extreme, but it is wider. It definitely does widen. You know. Hey, Rocking Steady. Hey, Glenn. You know what they say, the more you watch other people, you know, you realize how little you know. And once you recognize that you don't know, that's the beginning of knowing, I should say, I guess. You got to recognize that you don't know. You can't start learning until you realize that you've got stuff to learn. And looking at any of the high graders is just a great lesson. Looking at any of those pipes is just a great lesson. I was reading an old, one of the pipes. Well, I could quite easily put an adapter in there, which will pipe cleaner will go right through. I can make it feel like there's no filter in there at all. Won't be exactly the same, I agree, but still. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Well, I'll be very honest with you. I've got so many pipes up for sale. I initially set out tonight to make myself a pipe, and that's kind of in my mind. I thought to myself, what would be my perfect pipe? And I have to be honest, this one probably isn't in terms of dimensions, but I'll find out once I start smoking it if I do keep it. But in terms of dimensions for me these days, this kind of shape is about right for me. Maybe half an inch shorter, maybe. But this is pretty much what I would be going for. My billiard, which has the rusticated stem shank, which I use for English blends. Same kind of idea. A billiard, a little bit bulbous billiard, long-ish shank, and a small ebonite. And that is really where I'm at, pretty much. And it's essentially a classic billiard shape. It's just a variation of it, but in terms of drawing a line there and a line there, that's essentially what it is. It's a billiard, and it's wrapped in a slightly different shape, but essentially it's a billiard. And the billiard is the most popular shape for a reason. It's not, it's not for no reason at all. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. If you know him, or if you can send him a picture, do so. It would be nice to get to know some of these people. The grain on this one, I think, should be quite nice. That's why on the virtual pipe channel, seeing some of these great guys, it's really a unique thing for me, because in the States you guys get to see guys at pipe shows and things like that, which it's very hard to. Okay, we've got the English carvers, but other than that, don't really have anybody. Oh wow, I didn't even see this. I mean, I knew roughly what the grain was, but obviously seeing it sanded is just something else. Got some lovely bird's eye there. And really nice grain. Look at that. You won't need much in the way of staining. Yeah, I've got a stain colour which should do this. It's actually an English stain, not the Fiebings. And it won't need contrasting. It will just need 1 or 2 coats, and that's it. And that will deepen with time as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the cameras so you can see it better. So this side is okay, it's not as great. Just a bit of flame there. But this side, it's got some lovely grain. But look at that. There are a few little pits there. Not pits, they're just flecks. But that's some lovely, lovely grain there. And it's perfectly placed. In terms of the blocks, Andrew, mine are a mix of 2 and 3. I'm not sure if I've ever bought a grade 1. I can't recall if I've ever bought a grade 1. But they are Mimo blocks, so they tend to be better quality than some others. Some of the blocks now I get are also from Italy, but they're not necessarily Mimo. But they're all seem to be pretty good quality. And generally speaking, the ones which are bad, either if it's really bad, I won't use it, or it'll be rusticated. So you wouldn't necessarily see pipes with very bad. You'd see it when you're making it, so you'll see it on your own block, and I'll see it on my block when I'm making it, but you won't see it in the finished result. So when you say that you see lots of, good grain, clean blocks, it's because they've made it as a smooth pipe. But I agree with you. I've been very fortunate because I don't make that many rusticated pipes anymore. I used to make loads, but I don't tend to make many rusticated pipes anymore because the briar's been pretty good. Stratman, you never know until you try. I never thought for a minute that I could do this until I tried. I always thought there was a bit of magic involved. But once you try, you get that confidence after trying for a bit, and you'd be surprised what you can do. As a kid, I was very shy. I hated doing things in public. But once I started speaking in public, I wouldn't say that I'm a great speaker, but in my family, when we have a do, they always seem to ask me to speak. And I would never, ever, ever have believed that that's something that I would do. So when you try, you got to try. You will never know until you try. So if you like the idea of making pipes, get yourself a couple of hobby blocks, the pre-drilled ones to start with, and see how you go. See if you've got an eye for it. See if you've got the hands for it, and see if you've got the eye-hand coordination. You won't see it immediately, but you just need to see a hint of it. Then you'll know. Hey Jack, you made your own pipe. Awesome. Please do send me some pictures. Drop me an email. I'd love to see some of your work. I'm in northwest London, Night Piper. How am I taking the lockdown news? Well, if I didn't have to go out and do certain things, I'd be a lot happier, and I might try and negotiate my way out of that. And for me, I can sit here and work, so that would be the best if I could achieve that. But I can't always do that, and I have to have some discussions with people that I've got commitments with, because I'd actually prefer not to be circulating at the moment. I am concerned about it. My wife is concerned about it, especially this new variant, which means that even though I've had it, I could get it again, and nobody really knows if it's any worse or not. They're saying they're not expecting it to be, but they don't really know. There's no way they can know, because they haven't really seen the results of it yet. It's too early. Hey Daniel, how you doing? Hey Boca. The Fat Shanks BB, it's really I do lots of different shapes and sizes. Here's another one which got quite a thin shank which fans out. But this one is a pipe which is inspired by a pipe maker called Tao, T-A-O, and he makes pipes with fat shanks. Hence the fat shank on this one. But generally speaking, when you have shorter, stubbier pipes, they tend to have fatter shanks most of the time. Otherwise, they look very unbalanced. It's not necessarily harder to make a slim shank. It's just a different result. That's all. I guess you have to be a little bit more careful, to make sure that you don't end up cracking it or something like that. Especially as I do my pipes with a 9mm mortise. So if you do it too thin, then the walls around the mortise area are going to be very thin. So that's something just to bear in mind. But it's not really... I wouldn't advise it for new pipe makers because it's just too easy to go too far and ruin the pipe. But certainly, once you've got the hang of turning on a lathe, I don't think it's any harder. You just got less room, less wiggle room if you make a mistake. And when you're turning on the lathe, you want to make it look really straight. Whereas when you've got when you start off with a fat shank, you can always go thinner. You can always go thinner if you mess something up. But when you start with a shank like this, if you make a mistake, there's nowhere to go really. LCS Fat Shank Series. Now that's an original name. There's lots of different pipe shapes that I've done, and I think maybe I'll make a series out of this one, or maybe make this a signature shape. But I think what I'm doing is making a signature. I'm kind of developing a way of doing my pipes, not necessarily a shape, but a certain way of doing them, which I hope at some point... I know this is very hard. I mean, Mike's talked about this in previous videos. It's very hard to make pipes instantly recognizable as your pipes. And so far, the only thing which really some people have said that they've recognized is my staining. But one of the things I'm working on, which I think is probably the most reliable signature for pipe makers, is the bit, is how they make the bit. And I can't claim to make the bit entirely. I'm obviously shaping it, but it's there on most of the ones, unless I'm doing a hand cut. But just the way I do it, the height of the bite zone, the roundness of it, the shaping of this, the lip, and the fanning, all of that, I'm trying to carve out, for want of a better word, a kind of a signature there. And I think all the good pipe makers have a known style of how they do the lip, how they do the bit. Some things which, I suppose over time, I don't know myself what my signature is. I think it's far too early, to be honest, if I'm really honest. I do like the way, I tend to make this junction here quite consistently with a little bit. Some people do it extremely tight, so you'd like a right angle. This thing, I leave a little bit there, so you can see a little bit of a curve, and that's how I like it. I like it round and smooth, rather than a sharp line. Occasionally I'll do a sharp line, but generally speaking, there is a bit of a curve. See, this one is really very, very sharp. There's almost a right angle there, over there. But it works on this pipe. And also you've got this line going down here, which kind of carves out this circular shape of the bowl. And because it's rusticated, it helps to differentiate and sort of outline that shape. But for the moment, I think if I had anything which I do consistently on my pipes, as I say, is the bit, this junction here, and the staining maybe. But to be honest, I haven't even done. I don't remember the last time I've done my contrasting stain. So I'm all about exploring things the whole time. I'm not tied down to anything yet at this stage. So I'll just put the heating on. Have I thought of making a panelled billiard? Many, many times. Sleepless nights, Daniel. Hey, Boca. Yeah, I did see your video. I'm in the middle of watching it, actually. And it looks good on you. Thanks very much for the shout-out. Appreciate that. You love Dunhill Bits, the Night Piper. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not against them. There's nothing wrong with them. But I actually prefer the ones that I do. But then I would say that, wouldn't I? What makes a pipe smoke best? A flame, really, I would say. There's so many angles to that question. Because, well, Smoking some Orlik Golden Sliced. What makes a pipe smoke best? Well, the first, it's always got to come down to at the as a first basic, is the 2 drill holes. In actual fact, mainly 1 drill hole, the draft hole. When you drill the bowl, the chamber, as long as you're coming in at the right spot, even if the bowl is not perfect, it's not. I don't think it's the end of the world. And even if the draft hole doesn't come in absolutely perfect in terms of a central position, I don't think it's the end of the world. The proof of it is this pipe here. This pipe here, the draft hole is slightly off. It comes in at the right height. That's the key. To avoid gurgle and to avoid not, being able to smoke the whole bowl, you need it to come at the bottom of the chamber. This draft hole, the drill has to come in at the bottom of the chamber. If it's slightly to the right, slightly to the left, I don't think it's the end of the world. This one here, there's the center line, and you can't see that. It comes off, it comes in just slightly over to the side on this one, very slightly over, but this one smokes beautifully. It's got a fantastic draw. And it stays alight nicely. I'm hardly puffing on it and it's staying alight. Smoking it with good friends, Mike, absolutely. Although pipe smoking often is a very solitary thing. So for me, the most key important thing is that line there. After that, obviously the way it meets that, the comfort of your stem, and generally the consistency of the drill between the bit and the bowl, so that there shouldn't be any major, unless you're going into really high grades. But even if not, as long as there isn't any major deviation in terms of diameters from there to there, you should be okay. And then it's down to your tobacco, how you load your pipe, how tightly you fill it, how much humidity there is in it, the environment you're in. There's lots of different things. But for me, if you're asking me the first, I would say it's a toss-up between the comfort of the bit and the draft hole. Because even if the draft hole is not perfect, you'll still get smoke through it. You'll be able to smoke the pipe. So for me, your whole interaction with your pipe is through the bit. Everything. For me, it kind of starts and ends with the bit. At the same time as the quality of your draft hole. But the bit is really crucial. Because if you've got a pipe which is really comfortable, you'll just subconsciously you'll reach for it more often than a pipe which may have cost you 10 times as much, but the bit isn't as comfortable. You'll obviously smoke something which you enjoy more. Absolutely, Tunnel. I think that with time, every pipe smoker will adjust to their preference. In terms of how heavily they pack their pipe. That's a natural evolution over time. When you first start smoking a pipe, don't expect it to work the first time, or the second, or the third, or the 10th time. It takes time. It took me 3 or 4 months just to be able to keep a pipe alight. Somebody asked before what I'm smoking. I'm smoking Orlik Golden Sliced. Vanilla roll cake. Is that a new type of a new presentation from McBaron? Oh, interesting. Would you say that's more of a? Would you say that's more of a? Yeah, well, if it's a roll cake, it would be a coin cut. Yeah. Would you say it's more of a mature smoke, more of a natural tobacco smoke, despite it having vanilla? Is there more of a Virginia flavour? Is it less aromatic-y or more aromatic-y? Is it just the presentation difference, or is there any real difference into the flavour? Corona. You know, it was really cool when I was turning this. You get these shards of silver, you know, that coming off the ring when you're cutting it. I just thought it was quite cool. You've got to be careful because it's really, really sharp. Pure Cavendish, Virginia. Well, I prefer to stick with. I don't know. It's stupid for me to say that without trying it, I guess. But I do enjoy the vanilla cream, I have to say. Evening, Graham. No, it's morning now here. I see you smoked your Briar Blues pipe today, or yesterday. Jermaine's Tobacco versus Samuel Gareth blends. Different styles of making tobacco. I would say that the Samuel Gareth way of making tobacco, not that I'm a huge expert, but it would seem to me that they have a much more historic way of doing things, English way of doing things, and how they make their flakes and so on. Whereas Jermaine's, they just seem to have their own style. Their tobaccos often seem a bit raggedy in the way they present them, but the flavouring is fantastic. You know, they obviously do a very, very good job. They've got good tobacco. And their tobaccos are sought after for a reason. Hey, Vangelis. Vangelis, is it Vangelis or Vangelis? Is it a hard G or a soft G? My pipes are generally on here at the moment. I have a website which I keep promising to finish off, but it will be finished off soon, hopefully. Soft G, Vangelis. Okay. But generally my pipes are either on here, Facebook, or Instagram. But whenever I make a new pipe, it's uploaded here on my YouTube channel. My video previous to this, I put up about 24 pipes for sale. If you're interested, have a look through there. About half of them are the pipes that I've made myself, the LCS Briars pipes, and the rest are mostly estate pipes. Daniel, in terms of whether you smoke straight from the tin or whether you dry it out, it really depends on how wet the tobacco is and how you like to smoke your tobacco. If you like to smoke it wet and it's wet in the tin, then smoke it straight out of the tin. I would say that for the most of the time, for the majority of the time, most tobaccos, especially English tobaccos, English as in from the UK, most of them need drying out a bit. Especially Samuel Gareth and many of the Jermaine's blends, not all. Otherwise, I can send you his address, Andrew. Yeah, it's great when you get a tin where the moisture is perfect. That's always the ideal, so you can just get in there and smoke it. But even with that tobacco you're smoking there, Andrew, one tin could be ready to go, the next tin might not be. But generally speaking, I think that manufacturers tend to stick to the same regime. So if a blend comes out ready to smoke, I think a lot of the time they'll always come out like that. Because they'll usually stick to a recipe, if their recipe is leave this out to dry for 12 hours, 10 hours, 2 weeks, they'll usually stick to that regime. And that won't necessarily be to create the moisture level, but it'll be more about getting the flavor exactly as they want it. And different tobaccos and different blends will react differently. Some will do better with more or less time. And if it's if it's a tobacco that I'm smoking regularly, what I'll often do is open the tin, I'll let it dry out, but then I'll leave the tin out. I won't put it back in a. I won't necessarily put it in a jar or in a Tupperware. If it's something I'm smoking regularly, I'll just leave it on the table in the tin, and it will slowly get to the right humidity on its own. And because it's getting smoked, it won't be out there on for too long. Oh yeah, Solani 131 is a good smoke. Something I have been finding a little bit challenging, Mike, I don't know if you can help on this, is the silver. When you polish it on the mop, it obviously makes the mop black because of the properties of the silver. And what that does is sometimes it makes the briar black, and then I have to resand it. So what I've taken to doing is trying as much as possible is just to do the stem and the band together and not get any of it on there. But I'm actually thinking now I might just tape it off when I'm doing the silver band. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I do have a separate buffer for that, a black one now, but the problem still remains. So yeah, I probably will tape it off. That's my metal one. Yeah, RDF, Rich Dark Flake, Special Latakia Flake, 1820 Flake, all of those, as and when they become available, I generally try and buy 100 grams or something like that because it's not always available. and I just top up what I've got. I don't buy loads of it, but I just buy 50 or 100 grams when I can, because those are blends which are always good. May not be up there in my top 3 or whatever, but they're always good. Especially Latakia Flake, it may not be in my top 3 simply because it's that good. I don't smoke it all the time, but it is a great tobacco. I think better than Penzance. Well, not better, it's just I prefer it. Better to me, I should say. Will I drive by some football stadiums? Probably not. Nothing planned in the near future to go anywhere near any. But if I do happen to, I'll try to remember to do a video. But you can't usually see much from the street. All you can see is just a high-walled building. Usually, you don't usually see anything. Cha-ching! Do you reckon that's because of COVID, Tim? I suppose it makes sense, but do you know that for a fact? There you go. Mike's got it in one. Come on, you Spurs! I'm not selling the Mazda at the moment, Daniel. I've decided to hold on to them. I've got all 3 cars sitting there at the moment. I'm not rushing it. I'm not in a rush. So I won't have money to buy another car anyway. So I'm leaving things as they are for now. You know what the problem is with that, especially with a car, is that it overtakes your mind. It overtakes your peace of mind. And it just drives you nuts. Whenever you're trying to buy something, you're on the market for something, it gives you no peace. It gives you no rest. So I've decided just to leave it for now and just chill. If I were a tobacco, what combination of leaf would I be? Haven't the foggiest idea. What are you on tonight? Figured you were Spurs. Yes, quite right. I'm a Tottenham man. If I was to say any team, it would be Tottenham. I'm not anymore. I used to be. I used to know all the players and all that kind of stuff, but I'm too ancient. I don't follow football anymore really these days. If England get into the World Cup, then obviously I'll follow that. And if Spurs get anywhere, I might try and find it. If they're in a cup or something like that, I might try and watch it. But really, really, I don't know a single player that plays for Tottenham these days. I'd be an aged leaf. Very good. Absolutely right, Charlie. I'd be a fat shanked leaf. A fat stemmed leaf. Alright, I think we've done 400 for long enough. The goalie. I used to be a good goalkeeper, believe it or not. And it wasn't just because I lay down and the height of my girth saved the ball. Alright, let's have another look at the grain. Some nice grain. And some lovely grain there. A couple of little sand dots. But that won't trouble me. Certainly not if I smoke it. Imagine the magic that somebody like Tom Eltang would do with that grain. So this is, in fact, a slightly bent billiard. I don't know if you realised that, but that's roughly the angle that it's at. So that's horizontal there. So very, very slight. It's going to get a very slight bend. Golden contrast wood. It's just a question of whether I should do that or not. I mean, I can't do golden contrast, a real golden contrast, if I'm honest, but I can do a contrast. The ones that I do are contrasty, but I wouldn't call them golden contrast. Not in the way that he does it. The black that they use is different, and it gives them more depth. I guess I could replicate that by just doing coat after coat after coat of black, sanding it and then doing it again to give it depth. I'm probably too impatient for that, but yeah, I could do that. It will certainly get a more contrasty thing. Maybe I'll do that. I'm not in any rush now. As I say, I'm not rushing to make more pipes. I want to try and sell ones that I've got. Rusticate the bottom with that kind of grain? Are you mad? He's got some beautiful pipes. Mike's been Pipe and Tamper. He's been showing some awesome pipes recently. Did I train Roy of the Rovers? Yes, Tree. You're very. I shall write in your report. Pays attention in class. Welcome to Fat Shank. I think I will give it a stain, because I think it will just make it shine, the grain, from an aesthetic point of view. I mean, as I say, if I'm smoking it myself, I could live without it, but I just like to see what I can achieve. So what I might do is stain it. I must be honest, I don't usually stain black. I usually, if I'm going to go dark, I usually stain with a dark brown as opposed to black. But maybe I'll do a black, see what happens. Yeah, I've heard somebody say something about that black stuff. The guy that used to do my sandblasting, he used on one of the pipes, the one that I smoke, the billiard that I smoke with for Latakia blends. He did I asked him to do a contrasty undercoat, and then I did the top coat. And he said when you blast, it just blasts it all away. So he said he can use a certain thing. I've forgotten what it's called now. It's a black something. I didn't see sandblast lines on this pipe, not so far. I've got another block here, which is unbelievable. I was going to use this block, but I decided not to. And I'm going to keep it for when I can sandblast it or get it sandblasted by somebody else. Check those lines out. Unbelievable. This was in my box of blocks. I always sand all the rough off, to see what the grain looks like before I start shaping a pipe. And look at that. Look at that. The ring grain there. It's just like a spider's web. And this is just got to be given to somebody that knows what they're doing. It's just unbelievable. I just can't bring myself to use this until I know what I'm doing, or I can give it to somebody else who knows what they're doing. I've obviously got to make the pipe itself, but yeah, so I've set this one aside. This one is another one which I wanted to make, but it's also got a very, very nice grain and a very even plateau as well. So that potentially could make a stunning pipe. Big block as well, it could make a magnum. Got a few blocks out here. I mean, I keep them inside generally, but as I come out each day, I bring a couple out that I think I might like to work on. This one is a very wide block. I was gonna make like a squat tomato. You want me to wet it? Okay, your wish is my command. See, when you wet it, that ring grain. Oh no, you can see it on this one, on this side. But it's got a nice straight grain as well. So if it's blasted well, you don't see it so much now. Now you see the grain. If this is blasted well, you'll actually see this the sinews of the grain going down, and then the ring grain going horizontally. But it is spiderwebby. Between each sort of thicker strand, you can see the ring grain, sort of a perfect curve between each one. Can you see that there? Where is, give me something pointy. Is it dark a bit there? You see that going across there? It's like that all the way across everywhere. This is a darker one, but you can see it there as well. But between each strand, it really is a spider's web kind of potentially sandblast. I'm going to show you, I'm going to turn it around again, the camera, so you can see what I'm talking about. It's really worthwhile seeing it. You see, between each strand, you've got these curves and the narrow ones there, but it's just, it really is a spider's web. And in the hands of the right pipe maker, not so evident on this side, but it is there, but not as much as the other side. Frustratingly, you get that on pipes, unless you're talking straight, you know, top grade pipes where you get it all around. But on most pipes, you'll get stunning grain on one side, nice grain on the other side, but never quite as good, as I say, unless you're paying top dollar. Cheers, Eric. Splendid indeed. All right, just bear with me. I'm going to give this a quick blast on the mop, and I'll be back in a tick. Bear with me, don't run away. These things are sanding, little sanding pads, sanding discs. Josh, you're in a very blue mood tonight. Minitus, Fate of Sawdust. Yeah, I was wearing my mask before, but yeah, I should have worn it again. You're right. All right, there we go. Just a quick polish on that silver band. You can see a little bit of it has bled there, which I'm going to have to, when I buff it again, I'll get rid of that. So I'm going to now work on the button. The staining, I mean, I suppose I could stain it now and let it do a few layers. Yeah, I'm still struggling with that, is getting that right, because that, although it looks nice and shiny, there's still lots of marks on it. So I need to buff that quite a bit. So don't forget, it's got to have a little bend on it as well, so it will look more balanced. At the moment, it looks a bit off. That's horizontal, but you can see it goes up a little bit there. So that's going to come back just a little subtle bend. Cheers, Andrew. Cheers, Tim. Good night. So I'm going to sand this up at 600. And I think I will stain it. Let's find a bit of 600. I need to get some more sandpaper. I think I've run out of 600s. See if I've got any of it knocking about. 400. I could stick at 400, but I like to go up to 6 if I can. Managed to get myself some black super glue. When you need it, you can't find it, and when you don't need it, you find it. 2400, 180, 600. Bonne soirée. Hey Jeffrey, how you doing? the length of the pipe. I think it was about 4.5 inches in total, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's a touch under 4.5 inches. I don't have a dust removal system. I have an extractor which is under my sander, and I need to build a proper housing for it. At the moment, I've just got a bit of cardboard over it. But you can see the hose snaking on the floor there. So I do have extraction just for the sander, but at some point I'll kind of upgrade that in the workshop. So I'll generally, after buffing it and smoothing it out, I'll generally re-sand it before I stain it, just to open up the pores again. Yeah, it's blowing it out of the lathe is not the problem. It's just collecting the dust. You know, all the time when you're just doing hand sanding like this, there's little particles of dust flying around all the time. And I guess not even when I'm hand sanding, I should really wear a mask. But I wouldn't be able to talk to you otherwise. And I do find often, you know, the next morning when I blow my nose or whatever it is, lots of dust particles. Not to get too graphic, but your nose certainly has to work overtime to filter that stuff out. And obviously a lot of it isn't getting filtered out. You know what the sad thing is that you know, when I read about the current crop of the very high enders, they're all reaching an age where, you know, they're not going to be making pipes that much longer. And the book I recently got, The Pipe, from the Danish Pipe Shop, started reading it, and you know, you see pictures of Tao, and you know, even Tom Eltang is not that old, but you know, these people are getting on, and although you can continue to make pipes into an old age, but they're not going to be around forever. I mean, Tom Eltang, for instance, he's got a group of people who he's mentoring all the time, which is really great to see. He's got Kent Rasmussen's grandson who works in his workshop. I think it's a grandson with from Kent Rasmussen and Anne Julie. Is that right? Have I got it right? So some illustrious piping families there, keeping things in the family. Yeah, Mike Bay. But I think that's who it is. I'm not familiar with that one, Mike. Andrew. I was looking at a magazine recently and seeing pipes by Michael Lindner and reading about his history, the challenges that he overcame to become a great pipe maker. He's got some stunning pipes. I actually brought out some cigars to smoke, but I don't know if I'm going to get around to it now. I'll just show you the box. I got this in the other day. It's a box of 10. These are punch cigars, Cuban cigars, and they're called Short de Punch. It's a short cigar. I think they're what are they? This is a very new, hasn't had enough time to age yet. This is from 2020. They do smell not bad considering that they're brand new. Nice looking cigars. And I reckon they're about a 4.5 inch by 50 ring gauge. Either 50 or 48. Yeah, they are Cubans. And I thought I'd try one. Usually when I get a fresh box, even though they're fresh and they're not really ideal for smoking, but I like to try one just to get an idea. And then when I go back to them a year later or 6 months later, I can make some kind of comparison to see how much they've improved. I may well smoke one, Andrew. I think I'm going to probably leave it till tomorrow now because it's quite late and I'm a bit dusty and I probably won't enjoy it as much. So I may just light up another pipe. But I'll probably try it tomorrow and then I'll probably leave them in the humidor for a while. The thing is that with the boxes of 10s, they're more economical to buy, but once you start them, they finish so quickly. So it's really hard to resist once you start a box of 10. When you got a box of 20 or 25, you can work your way through, and there's still 18 left, 17, 15, 16, till you get to the second half of that box, then you know you're at the end. You're fast downhill. Righty ho. Let's get this off again. So we're going to stain it. I'll take this off so that I can work on the stem while that's drying. Where is my stem holder? Very disorganized, as always. Oh, it's actually in its box where it's supposed to be for a change. Your chestnut tree got lightning strike. Oof. Was it destroyed? Is it done? Is it the end of it? What do you reckon? Should I go black or stick with the brown that I know? It's a shame that it's dead. You know, I'm going to show you. I'm going to give it a quick coat of this. It's a very light stain, which I can just wipe off after if I'm not happy with it. It's a very natural looking stain. This is about as close to natural as I can get, whilst still giving it a little bit of a stain. So that's just, it gives it a little bit of a richer hue. I used to use this stain a lot on my pipes in the early days. So you can make out the grain. Doesn't hide the spots though. So I could just leave it like that and be done with it. Maybe put another couple of coats on and then just buff it back a little bit just to get that grain through. But there are a couple of spots here and there. Yeah, I mean, it does pop against the stem, Charlie. But I actually think that a lighter works well with the overall balance. If I go dark, it would look nice, but I actually think a lighter touch to the bowl will work better. It's just a shame that we've got a couple of spots on it. But to be honest, once it's smoked a few times, it won't really matter that much. You know, we get very fussy to the nth degree about every little spot. But, you know, once we smoke a pipe enough times, none of that matters, really. I think I might just do that. I'm going to do a couple of coats of that. Well, the original intention, James, was to make that for myself, this pipe. As I say, I've got so many pipes up for sale at the moment. So, and the intention was to make this for myself as a little treat, although I just treated myself to this pipe. But never mind. So I think I'm going to give it another go. I'm sure it's right in front of me, but where's my sacrificial stem? There it is. So this stain, although it smells like spirit stain, it's called spirit stain, but I've never managed to flame this stain. It must be a low level of spirits in this stuff, a low level of alcohol. You can certainly smell it. It smells like spirit stain, but the Fiebings flames up much more readily, which helps to seal the stain into the briar. Yes, I do. I've got up to, I think, 1200 grit. I should have a bit of 800. I've got 1000, and I've got 1200. I might even have 1500 somewhere. All right. At which stage, Mike, are you talking about? Before stain, after stain, between stains, before buffing? When are you saying to do it? I see. But at which stage would you use it, Mike? When are you saying to do that? Just to as the finishing level of sanding before doing anything else? You know, like when I finish off at 600, you're saying I should just go on up a wet sand. Is that what you're saying? Between stain applications. Ah, okay. It's already looking a lot richer, but it just won't be contrast. I mean, I can make it a bit contrasty afterwards. Just take it back a little bit. But this gives it a very natural wood colour. Right, okay. I mean, I have no experience with that, with fine wood finishing, let's be honest. But yeah, I hear that. I mean, obviously, when I watch other pipe makers and I watch Tom Eltang's videos, the ones that you can find, you see him sanding between coats. I find with this staining, I like to rub it off dry because it streaks a little bit. So, you know, once it's had a chance to dry a little bit, I rub it off and it just gives a much nicer, smoother, even coating. Give you another look at it. Josh, you're a card. All right, so I've taken this down to quite a fine compound. This hasn't got any wax on it. It's just a fine compound. And I've, let me turn it around again, sorry. Let me do what Josh said and use a better camera. So, brought it out a little bit, but you can also see the spots there. Still need to polish that ring a little bit more, but that will get those hairline scratches very quickly afterwards. So if I decide to keep it, I may not worry too much about it. Yeah, so it's just a question of whether I should go the whole hog with the staining or not. Oh, I can criticize it if I want to. It's far from perfect. I think I shall do some work on the stem now. Keep it like Otis. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's got a pretty fat shank, that's for sure. Faux show. Just trying to make that look as neat as possible. You can see the So you guys, any of you guys got any plans for Christmas holidays at all? I guess there's not going to be much travel going on. You're popping a tin of crinkle flake. See quite a few people buying that stuff. I've never tried it. Is it an aromatic or an English? What is it? Yeah, Boris, that makes sense. Pretty much do the same on Hanukkah here. Lots of donuts and oily food. My daughter ordered in a nice platter of sushi this evening, which was very nice. And I've promised the kids some frozen yogurt tomorrow. It's usually pizza and chips on a Sunday night. We'll see. A vapor, cool. Interestingly, I said that to my wife, North Country. I said to my wife, do you think it's just a tactic to get everybody indoors? Or if it's real or not? But if it wasn't real, I don't think the scientists would allow it. Because the scientists are not interested in politics. I don't think the scientists would allow the government to get away with that. Maybe they're making more of it, but I don't doubt that there is a new strain there, but it may not be anything significant. We don't know. I guess we'll start to know in a few weeks' time when people who have contracted it and see what happens to them. Yeah, well, James, Yeah, I agree with you. If I was you, I'd stay indoors. With those kind of conditions, you don't want to be catching it. That's for sure. Even if you agree that it's not as bad as people make out, but one thing's for sure: people who have got underlying illnesses, they are very vulnerable to this virus. Yeah, that's bad, man. Cigar, that is bad. You're lucky, Strat, man. You had it easy. I had it relatively easy as well. I was unwell for a few weeks, pretty much confined to my couch, but managed to pretty much get back to normal. I struggled a lot with pain and stiffness in the lower part of my body for a good few weeks after, even months after, but and I don't know if that was a cause of my sciatica that I've been having trouble with, but I was lucky. I think I was one of the lucky ones. Yeah, it definitely does hit people differently. That's what my wife is worried about. She hasn't had it yet, at least she doesn't think she has. The last time she tested for antibodies, it didn't show up, so she's very nervous. She's worried about this new strain. Nobody knows yet what it's going to bring. Nobody knows if the vaccine will work against it. They think it will, but they don't know. All right, I think one final time I'll give you a look at the pipe before I bend it, and then I think that'll be it. Got that nice rounded shape going on. Need to clean that out, it's a bit dusty inside. So, gonna bend it, and I think we'll be done for the day. You reckon, Josh? Well, for now, I've got one more silver band like that. But I guess they don't have to be silver. But you can make ones with acrylic bands, like Tao does. Bend it, fill it, and light it. Ooh, that would be tempting. Pipe 24? Which one is pipe 24? Oh, pipe 24 on the list. Which one was that? I'll have a look. There it is. Finito. I haven't had hair for a long time, Boris. I'll give it a quick buff with a bit of wax, not that it needs it. Recently, I've been using just a very fine composite compound, and sometimes not even bothering with the wax. I find the wax sometimes just clogs it up a little bit. I'll give it a very light buff. Perhaps if you put the mop on the lathe. All right. So just a little bit of a shine there. And that's that. Pipe 258, I think that is. Thank you, Mike. That means a lot to me from you. Although I don't see a Castello here, but in terms of the colouring, maybe, perhaps the way the colouring interacts with the inside of the bowl, I find that their pipes do have a certain look that the maybe that's what you mean. The colouring of the bowl is just maybe one sort of stain richer or darker than the inside of the bowl. I assume that's what you mean. Right, okay. It's kind of, it keeps the natural sort of briar look, but it just gives it a little bit more. This is a very nice stain, actually. As I say, I used to use it right in the beginning before I got to understand how to get contrast staining, but the grain on this pipe is so good it just doesn't need it. Right, I guess I could finish off this bowl. There's a few dregs left in there. Well, you know what? Selling it is also very tempting. In this day and age, you've got to take it when you can get it. I think, as much as I would like to smoke it, and I really did intend making it for myself, I'll be honest. But the way the world is at the moment, well, that sounds awesome. If anybody would offer me half of that, I would take it. Open hands. They'll get a good pipe, and they'll get a pipe that smokes well. The construction of it is perfect. The drilling of it is absolutely spot on. You can see that there, it's absolutely bang on the money. And that's bang on there. I've done some internal tapering as well, as you probably saw. So the draw will be super smooth. I don't know how much you're going to see there. You can see there the oval shape of the button, which is created by doing the V-slot. Weight, it's hard to say because it's squat. I'm not used to holding squat pipes so much. I don't have the scales out here. I would say somewhere between 45 and 50 grams. That's my guess, but it's hard to say. And I can't get to my scales now because my grandson is sleeping in there, in my office. I guess I should stamp it up. I might be able to hide a couple of these dots with the stamping actually, come to think of it. I'm not even sure that I would give it 2 stars, to be honest. I mean, it's a beautiful pipe, but with the various bits of spots on it, I think I just have to be critical. You know, there's another little bit there, another dot there. So somebody who's worried about those things, you know, would be worried about it. What can I say? In terms of a pipe, in terms of everything else besides for those spots, yeah, I would make it a 2 star easily. It's rough, you know, when it's down to the briar. It's rough. I'm not even sure if I should put stars on this one because it's deceptive. As pipes go, it's a great pipe, but if you're going to be absolutely critical about the quality of the briar, then you're going to knock yourself down big time. That is always the problem with briar. This one definitely gets the super grain. So that's the super grain stamp. That's the stars. I'm not sure if I'm even going to star it. It's good to complicate the matter, and then people can worry about it in 20 years' time. Why didn't you have stars on this pipe? But if this channel is still up and running in 20 years' time, and YouTube hasn't banned it, people will be able to make their own research. The holes are cosmetic as long as they're on the surface. As long as they don't go through, then it's just cosmetic, and they don't go through. It's a good piece of briar, essentially. I don't do 0 star, that's the thing. Not since I started using the stars. I'll either do 1, 2 or 3, or an X, if I consider it as seconds. Although there are some pipes that I've just forgotten to stamp it with a star and they'll have gone out like that, to be perfectly honest with you. And yes, James, I do heat it up, as you can see. Not with a heat gun though, but with a flame. Tell you, it takes it out of you when you stamp. You really got to give it some elbow grease. It gets my heart pumping. In terms of going wrong, it's just a matter of if you don't get the stamp, sometimes it goes a bit crooked, which is not the end of the world. The stamp's a stamp, but it's nicer to get it all symmetrical, obviously. You do see some really expensive pipes where it's gone wonky. I've had some really expensive pipes, which, like limited edition pipes. I wouldn't say really expensive because I've never had any really expensive pipes. But you do see them a bit wonky sometimes. But it's when the impression doesn't go in well, and maybe you try and do it again, that's when it goes haywire. You get a ghost sort of image. Does the heat help? I don't know. I mean, Ian Walker told me that's what I should do, so I do it, and I just don't want to risk doing it without it, because in case I mess it up. Yeah, see, this one hasn't come out properly. I'm not going to risk doing it again. Next one is London Made. If I was really fussy about the stamps, I could resand it, but that's a bit obsessive to do that. I think you end up changing the shape. You got to go down a few millimeters on the sanding. It's just not worth doing that, in my view. Pretty ghosted, yeah. Buckeye said it's not necessary to heat it. Okay. That's this side, isn't it? It's actually a desktop lighter. I bought it in JJ Fox's. I don't know if they still make them or not. but you have adjustable strength, and you can also change it to a soft flame as well, and you can put a lock on so it stays on. It's very cool. All right, so we're all stamped up. That's 20 LCS Briars, Super Grain, 2 stars. I've given it 2 stars despite the issues, because I'm probably going to keep it unless, as I say, unless somebody really, really wants it. And London Made. Okay. All right, let's see if you're all right. Let me just check my emails. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, it did come together really nicely. I'm very happy with it, with the stamp. Children. Right, so let's check the emails. No. Oh, hang on, that's not all emails, that's just LCS. I don't think I've got any emails. All inboxes. No, nobody wants the pipe. Well, there we go. Right, gentlemen, it's 2 a.m. I love it when people say 2 a.m. in the morning. A.m. is the morning. It's 2 a.m. Absolutely delighted with the pipe. Thanks very much for staying with me, everybody, keeping me company. It turned out nice. I might just buff it before I go to bed again. And we'll see in the morning what the morning brings. Perhaps we'll do another. Maybe maybe I'll make an acrylic band using one of the Eldritch rodstocks, maybe. But I don't know. I think that sometimes a straight colour has a more professional finish. Maybe to do one with the wood, you know, a Bacote wood band, something like that. Yeah. Or maybe even just an ivory. Sometimes ivory or boxwood works very well. Excuse me. Anyhow. Thanks very much, everybody. Olive wood. I've got some olive wood. I've got Bacote. Olive wood will actually work very well. Yeah, it's a nice bright wood. I did an olive wood recently. I don't think that one has sold. And it's amongst a bag of pipes which I forgot to put in the sale. This one was a recent one which I forgot to put in the sale. Really like this pipe too. This one's got just a white and black acrylic band on it. And this one I did the same, very similar staining, but you could see the difference in the briar. The briar was obviously darker on this than on this one. This one, I agree with you on the Castello colour, the Castello finish. It does look like that. It's got a very bright finish to it. Okay, folks, good night, Boris. Good night, Josh. Good night, Bernie Nut. Good night, James. Good night, Jeff. Good night, Tony. Good night, Stratman. Good night, North Country Fisher. Good night, Andrew. Good night, Mike. And everybody else, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for staying with me. And I will catch you on the very next one. Perhaps we'll see what tomorrow brings. Maybe I'll do another live in the afternoon when I'm making a pipe. We shall see. Good night, everyone.